Good evening, and thanks for coming to the school reopening virtual parent meeting. I'm Leslie Whitcomb. I'm the superintendent of schools. We also have Matt Clefane, the high school principal, in on the call. And so he'll be answering some questions.
Hello, everybody. Good to have you with us.
Thanks, Matt. If you have chat questions, go into the chat and you're going to send them not to everybody, but to Jason McCord. So you may want to find him in the chat now. And I'm going to go through a slide deck that we have, and these respond to some of the major areas of the school's reopening plan, and also to some questions I received. At the end, I'm going to hit a few more questions that have come in through emails, and then we'll respond to the chat questions that you have. So again, send your chat questions to Jason McCord, and we'll get going. Let's start off with the schedule. And the other piece is our first day of school is Wednesday, September 9. All grades are on a hybrid, which means we have a day of remote instruction and days of in-person instruction. For Walter B. Howard and grades 7 and 8, all students are in person Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and Wednesday is remote instruction. And I'll go over what you can expect from remote instruction going forward and about the child care for K-6. Grade 9 through 12, we would have loved to have brought all the kids in Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. But Matt, can you talk about the scheduling and what we do have at the high school?
Sure. So I developed a master schedule that sought to reduce student populations in every single class immensely. When we created the hybrid schedule, what it basically does is it separates the kids alphabetically and divides an already small group into an even smaller group, which will allow us to have kids in the classroom socially distanced and create a real safe space for everybody involved in learning. So at the high school, students in grades 9 through 12 are going to be separated alphabetically. Details are coming in the mail next week. There will be one group that goes on, as Leslie said, on Monday and Thursday, and the other group will go on Tuesday and Friday. This keeps a cohort together, which allows us to track contact tracing, as we've been asked to do by the state, and Leslie will also talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. Students at grades 7 and 8, they come every single day, with the exception of Wednesday. Remote learning is a remote learning day for everyone in the junior senior high school 7 through 12.
And so you're probably thinking, well, the first day of school is a Wednesday. Yes, kids will come in that Wednesday. So Wednesday, September 9, students in grade kindergarten through 8 will all be in. We will have a remote orientation for pre-K and for kindergartners, and information's in the mail on that. And for the high school, it will be the, Matt, correct me if I do this wrong, the Tuesday, Friday group that will come in on that Wednesday, and that is names Lee through Z. Do I have that right, Matt?
No.
Thank you. And again, information is going to be coming to your homes very soon. So use of personal protective equipment in school. Big thing is all students have masks. We encourage families to provide a mask for your child, but if you can't, don't worry. We have masks and they'll be available for children. And if during the day somebody's mask gets dirty or something happens to it, we'll give them a replacement. Not to worry about that. And masks also have to be worn on the bus. And if a student comes up to the bus and they've forgotten their mask or whatever, we will provide a mask. The drivers will have masks on board. And kids have to wear them throughout the ride. They can't come off. There's no mask breaks on a bus ride. The other thing we're doing has to do with social distancing on the bus. And as long as we're talking about the bus, I'll mention it here. We'll have kids, one student to a seat, unless kids are from the same household, in which case we'll ask them to sit together. If we get to the end of the run and we still have kids that need to ride the bus, we may have to put 2 in a seat, but we will start from loading the bus from the back with 1 student in a seat. We really encourage parents to provide transportation to help reduce our numbers. That's also encouraged from the Department of Health and the Education Department. If we reduce our numbers in transportation, we can be more assured of being able to have 1 to a seat. Now, during the school day, we will provide mask breaks. These can happen in a classroom when they're engaged in a quiet activity. All students seated, teachers seated, maybe reading, maybe taking a test, maybe simply working on a writing assignment or working math problems, but it would be a quiet time when no one's moving around the classroom, and then kids can take off their masks. Teachers will let them know when the break is over, and they'll put the mask back on. And we've talked, especially at the high school level, if students need to take a break and it's not a break time, ask kid to go out in the hallway, sit down in the hall, and can have a few minutes without a mask out there at the teacher's discretion. We just have to know where everybody is at all times, like we always do. And gloves will be available in the classrooms if kids need gloves for touching things, if they feel more comfortable doing that, or if they're in an activity where they may be touching shared equipment, say a science lab. And hand sanitizers available in all the classrooms and in all the common areas. And when students enter school, they'll hit hand sanitizer on their way in. People have asked about remote instruction by parental choice. If parents want to have remote instruction, is that available? And yes, it is. The remote instruction is going to be provided by New Lebanon faculty, and the remote students are going to be on the class roster along with their in-person peers. So if you're a 9th grader taking 9th grade English, you'll be assigned, even though you're not coming into school, to a class. That teacher is going to post vids of direct instruction along with related activities on Google Classroom. All the kids on the roster will engage in Wednesday remote instruction as well. The responsibility for the remote kids is that they have to have daily engagement with the Google Classroom. New York State is requiring schools to take attendance for remote instruction on a daily basis. So what accounts for attendance? What counts for attendance is that we can see that the student has accessed the Google Classroom materials, and that student will be considered to be in attendance on that day. So the remote instruction kids have the same curriculum as their in-school classmates. They'll take the same tests, have the same assignments, and they'll be graded against the same criteria as the kids who are in school. And they'll get report cards the same as the kids who are in the hybrid program in school. The other question I've had from parents is, can they change their mind about remote instruction? If you start on remote and would like to come to in-person, yes, you can certainly do that. And that's one of the reasons why we tried very hard to put together a program that aligned with the instruction in school. We would request that you give us a day or two to make sure that if your child is coming back into in-person from remote, give us a day or two so that we can set up the classroom, make sure we have a socially distanced chair ready for your child when they come back in, and that the teachers are aware that they're coming back in. And it works the other way too. If you start on in-person, you can change to remote. I think those are most of the questions that I had about remote instruction from parents. All right, Wednesdays. We're not going to be providing in-person instruction on Wednesdays, but we will have childcare available. You will have to sign up to attend the childcare. It can't be drop-in. And a lot of this goes back to the district's responsibility to the health department to know who kids have been in contact with. Students who sign up for the Wednesday childcare will be in a group that will be consistent the whole time they're here. That will be their little contact group. They'll be supervised by one of our TAs, and they'll be given time to work on their remote classroom work and supervised computer time, time outside to play, time with activities, but they'll stay in one group. And lunch and busing will be provided. All the contagion mitigation practices, all the social distancing, all the regular rules for school will be in place throughout this time. And I mentioned social distancing. As you would expect, all classrooms are going to be arranged to support 6-foot social distancing. And we'll be monitoring hallway passing for social distancing as well. In the elementary school, because kids don't pass as often there, they have most of their core classes or all their core classes in one classroom. The only passing will be to go to a special. Really feel that kids can't sit an entire day in one classroom. And so they will move to go to a special. They will move to go to lunch. We can fit all the kids in the cafeteria with social distancing. And so those are the only times that there will be passing, and teachers will not pass unless they're the only classroom in the hallway. Kids will go single file. They'll be 6 feet apart. They'll be reminded to do social distancing. We imagine we're going to be doing a lot of reminding about social distancing, at least in the beginning with school. Social distancing on the bus, the way I described, 1 kid to a seat, unless they're from the same household. And we're going to consider the seats to be a partial barrier. Windows are going to be open on the buses as long as the weather allows. The information we have from the health department is that with the air moving, there's less of a viral load, as they call it, can build up in an area. And in the classrooms, we'll have classroom doors and windows open as long as the weather allows as well. Folks have asked a lot of questions about choir and band. We will have a music program. It will not look like choir and band as you know it. In other words, it's not going to be a bunch of kids sitting on risers. It's not going to be a full at the high school choral room with kids singing. We can't do that. Singing is considered an aerobic activity, so is band, the same as PE class. 12-foot distancing for anything that's an aerobic activity. So in choir, if kids are doing nothing but marking up their music, which is a part of what they do in choir, or learning about the history of the piece or listening to performances of the piece, they'll be at 6-foot social distancing. For actual singing, we'll be breaking the students into smaller groups, having 12-foot distancing, using the gymnasium or out of doors. And there's a lot of information from national organizations to help us be more safe with this. So I know folks didn't want kids to be in choir and band. I think they were imagining it would look like normal choir and band. It does not. Students will have to be also facing in the same direction. And we're getting cloth covers for the bells on the instruments. And again, it's still not going to be entire ensembles practicing. Matt, can you talk about changing classes at the high school with respect to social distancing?
Sure. Teachers are going to try to pace kids as they leave their classrooms in between classes. Keep in mind the overall population is reduced almost by a half. So the number of people who are in the hallway at any given time is going to be a lot smaller than our already small school. We are going to have adults in the hallway throughout the passing period, encouraging kids to be distancing themselves 6 feet as we discussed. Lockers are not something that we are permitting just due to the close proximity of them and the kids' natural inclination to kind of congregate around them. So we are going to allow kids to carry backpacks during this time and to hang their coats on the backs of their chairs when we get to a point where the weather requires them. We don't envision the traffic in the hallway that we traditionally have, and we are going to have stairwells allocated for only up traffic or only down traffic to aid us in that effort.
In terms of the cafeteria, in both schools, we're expanding the space that we will use for lunch. In the high school, again, keep in mind, we're only going to have half as many of our 9 through 12 students in attendance. So we're going to have lower numbers also for the lunches. But the area will be expanded so that we can have social distancing during lunch. The elementary school is expanding their schedule also. They're stretching out lunches by starting a little earlier and running a little later. When kids are seated, we got everybody seated and they can remove their masks for eating and for drinking. We are not going to be using the service line with a lot of choices. In other words, no hands on a lot of things. There will be prepared and packaged up lunches that have choices in them. The kids will take one and go. So we won't be dishing them out individually the way we usually are. And kids won't have as many choices because we can't have kids touching things in a buffet line. So we've made a lot of adjustments to lunch, but it will be in the cafeteria. Cafeterias will be thoroughly cleaned and wiped down in between the lunch groupings as well. Which brings us to sanitation. Sanitation is different from cleaning. Of course, everything will be cleaned in its normal way. Things will also be sanitized. The desks and seats will be sanitized between uses. We have alcohol wipes, similar to the alcohol-based hand sanitizer. And the students in grades 4 through 12 will be instructed in how to do it. Kids will get a wipe. If they would like to use a glove in handling the wipes, they are welcome to use gloves as well. It is part of our health curriculum. We want kids to learn that this is an expectation, that if you've used an area, you should sanitize it before you leave, and you may want to sanitize something. Again, if you're not familiar with how it's been cleaned prior to you getting there, it's a healthy practice to sanitize an area before you use it. Now, going into the classroom, teachers will be supervising the students in grades 4 through 12, wiping down seats in areas that they've used. For the younger kids, that is going to be provided by our cleaning staff. And the K through 3 students are moving less frequently through the building just because of the nature of instruction. But we can handle that. Everything that's a shared equipment will be sanitized between uses. This relates probably more to staff than to students because we share copying machines, and if 2 teachers use a classroom, 2 of them may have used the phone, and they may share a desk, and they'll be sanitizing their areas between uses as well. The other is high touch areas. The CDC requires that these be sanitized every 2 hours, which means our cleaning staff, some members of cleaning staff, will be pretty much throughout the day in order to meet this requirement, sanitizing doorknobs, faucets, flush handles, the railings, the crash bars, and all of that. And again, hand sanitizers, it's available in every classroom. It's in all common areas. Students' hands will be sanitized upon entering the building. And the high touch areas on the buses will be sanitized between runs and then cleaned between the AM and the PM run. So the driver will sanitize the high touch areas in the bus between the high school and elementary school bus runs. And the buses will be entirely cleaned between the morning run and the afternoon run. A lot of monitoring is expected of the schools. The first is that temperatures have to be taken of all students and all staff entering the building. All the staff members have to complete a COVID questionnaire prior to reporting to work. We really don't want to have to send people home. We want them to self-monitor so no one even shows up sick. For students, if they come in and they're displaying any symptoms at all that are consistent with COVID, they'll be isolated until a parent can take them home. In terms of parents who are bringing their kids to Walter B. Howard, the parents will be expected to stay until they see that the student has been cleared to come in, because if they have a fever and it's above 100.4 is what CDC and the Department of Health is making the threshold, they need to not even come in the building, and they'll be sent home then. Just so you know, siblings also must be sent home. So please don't send students to school if they have any symptoms. I know things can happen once they get here, but please monitor at home. And students can only return when they're cleared by a physician. And all these monitoring protocols follow the DOH, the Department of Health recommendations and their requirements. So the thing that comes up, and folks have asked me about it, is what about with allergies? Allergy symptoms are consistent with COVID, and that's right, and the student will have to go home, and the doctor will then have to let us know that the student suffers from allergies, and that's what these symptoms are, and they can return to school. If it's something other than an allergy, depending on what the symptoms are, we'll let you know how long you have to stay home. It's 72 hours for a fever without medication. No fever, 72 hours before you can come back in. But the nurse will help you with these, because sometimes, I may say something now and the information may change between now and when school starts. So we want to make sure that you have up-to-date information. And to that end, all the nurses actually in all the schools in the area have been attending meetings with their county departments of health every week to get updates, to make sure their protocols are in line with Department of Health wants. And we'll be monitoring who comes into the building. Only people who have business that requires them to enter the building will be allowed in. For example, someone who needs to fix our furnace has to come in to do that. So if you're coming in to work on a boiler, you can come in, but you have to have your temperature taken. You have to complete a questionnaire. You will only be in the areas of the building that you are required to be in to complete your work. For folks who need to drop off things for kids, we're going to ask that you leave them in the outer vestibule in either of the buildings. Once we have the new secure entrance in Walter B, I think you'll find that'll be a lot easier. You'll be coming into the secure entrance most of the time, and you'll be able to drop something right there and then leave without coming into the building. Similarly, parents are going to have to wait outside for students who are being signed out, because we do have to monitor who comes in. The other piece of monitoring is contact monitoring. That's why students, to the extent possible, will stay with a similar group of kids. We're not going to be able to have kids dropping into the library on their own choice, because we need to know where kids are if we are asked to provide contact monitoring to the Department of Health should someone get a positive test. Which brings me up to the contact tracing. And I know this is a busy slide with a lot of words. I've had a lot of questions about this. I'll give you a second to read what's up on the slide. For more detailed information on the contact tracing, if you go to the district plan, and it's one of the bottom elements, and go to the contact tracing, we have information that we have direct from the Department of Health, including a couple of charts that they have provided to explain a little more information on what they consider to be contact that has to be followed up on. And again, it depends on the exposure and the amount of time in contact. And again, our role is to keep accurate attendance data and contact data so we know where kids were during the school day, and that can help the Department of Health follow up if they need to. So in order to provide the remote option, and considering that students will often be home with minor symptoms that they might have come to school with in the past, and that they will be likely to have to stay home longer because they have to be cleared by a physician before they can return, we're anticipating a lot of kids who are going to be home. So we will be using Google Classroom consistently to post classroom activities and classroom assignments. It also include recorded direct instruction. It may be the teacher, they may have found a really good recording from, say, Khan Academy or another source, but there will also be direct instruction, so that students will have instruction when they're at home, and as well as access to activities. We know that there are a lot of issues in our area with adequate broadband. A lot of us don't have it. We are boosting our Wi-Fi signal out into our parking lots, and the town is also doing that. The town hall and the library has boosted their signal to create some hotspots. To support the kids at home, all of the deployable devices that we can deploy will be sent to students who need them to support remote instruction. We have had since the spring a lot of Chromebooks on order, and we are going to be ordering more through the Smart Schools Bond Act, and we've that we started that process as well in the spring, and we've gone through it. And at this point, we'll be ordering those very soon. Once those come in, we will have enough machines to go one-to-one. We don't right this second. We have 195 Chromebooks. We have quite a few iPads, and we have a handful of laptops. We will deploy what we can. We do need machines also, devices also in school to support the instruction in the school. But the goal is within a few months to be one-to-one with everyone having a Chromebook issued to them from the school. So Matt, is there something that I missed that you would like to point out before we go through some of the questions that we have?
No, just for families who are in my building, just know that information with regard to 7th grade orientation, it's going to be virtual, has been sent out. That will be on September 2nd at 6 o'clock. Also next week, the student schedules and specific information on the hybrid plan, and if we ever go to full remote instruction during the course of the school year, will be provided. And I'm sure when I give you that information, there are going to be more questions. And please know that I'm available by phone and also by email. I'm working really hard to be very responsive to everyone who has inquiries. With that in mind, there was an inquiry this afternoon, Leslie, from a parent who was asking if there were misting procedures that take place when kids are not in the building, and if so, do we know what kind of chemicals are being used? Are they safe, and that kind of thing?
We use the mister, but it is not our only method of sanitizing. The mister is a saline solution. It's entirely safe. Things can be used right away. That said, it's not as effective as the alcohol-based solutions that we will be using in the classrooms. The sanitization that goes on at night is something that will not affect the students by the time that they're in. Also, there are very strict rules on what schools can use. Everything that we are using is approved for use in a school. They're generally also green products. So we are not using anything that isn't approved by New York State Department of Education to be used in the school. Right now, we're looking at different products to use on the buses between runs. We are relying on our BOCES to provide us with information and access to products that are effective, that are quick to use, and that are safe to use. But New York State Department of Education is very strict on what we can use in schools. And we can't just buy things off the shelf without it being approved by the state for our use. And that's why we're relying very heavily on the alcohol-based products. Those are considered safe, and they're actually being provided to us by the state. So I hope that answers that question. I'm going to go through a few things, but while I'm doing that, please make sure if you have some chat questions that you get them up now to Jason McCord, because we're going to hit the chat questions in just a second. We are going to be polling parents. The poll, I don't know if it has gone live already. It'll go at the end of this meeting. We're going to be posting a poll to get parents information, and Matt will be sending it out through our school email to all the parent emails. We're going to ask you if you were planning on going with remote instruction or the in-person hybrid. We're going to ask you if you need childcare for your K-6 child. And we're going to ask you if you are planning to transport your child, and if you're planning on doing it always, never, or sometimes. And that helps us with our planning on our buses to see where we're going with that. So that will be out too, and we request that you get that back to us by next Wednesday. And that will do a whole lot for helping us plan. And again, you're not signing a contract on this, but you're giving us information that will help us plan. You can certainly change your mind on these, but the better information we have, the better our planning will be. Mac talked about 7th grade orientation. I mentioned that there is pre-K and K orientation on that Wednesday, so those students will not be in attendance. They will be, however, attending a virtual orientation. We get to see the classrooms and meet the teachers virtually on that. See what else I've got. Oh, people have asked about the Questar programs. Students who are enrolled in Questar programs off campus, those are meeting daily, and we will provide transportation every day, Monday through Friday, to students who are enrolled in those programs. No changes to them. And in terms of the construction update, there's still a lot going on. The gymnasium at Walter B. Howard will not be ready for student use at the start of the school year. However, we've got all the equipment in our kitchens, and those are being hooked up now, so we'll be fully ready in those venues. All the bathroom renovations are complete. We're at punch list on those items now. We have classrooms in the junior, senior high school, which still need to be finished, but we are installing casework like cabinetry that's replacing existing aged out cabinetry in several classrooms. And there were some repairs to some floors that have to be completed, but we are on schedule for opening and having those things ready to go. But the buildings are not really available for a tour at this point in time. And those of you who've driven past the elementary school can see that they've moved very quickly on that new secure front entrance, and that will be ready to go as well. So those are my items. We're going to check now with what we have for the items that came through in the chat. What have we got?
What, if
Jason?
anything, is being done to boost Wi-Fi for students living in Rensselaer County?
For students living in Rensselaer County, we have not been approached by a similar group. You may be referring to the activities that happened with the district and Columbia County, and you saw us polling for that information. Rensselaer County is not engaged in a similar initiative. Were they, we would absolutely cooperate in the same way that we have with Columbia County. And I don't know how quickly Columbia County can act on this, but for those of you who completed that survey, thank you very much. It will help them at least know where we need to boost services. What we are doing for all of our students is what I said, we're creating hotspots in our parking lots, and there are hotspots also in the town hall parking lot and the library parking lot. And I suffer along with you with my DSL service, so I understand that even some people who have some broadband, it may not be sufficient when multiple members of the household need to access it. So whatever the district can do to partner with counties, we will do. And we will attend meetings, and we will help them get information that they can. And we lobby our legislators, and we make people aware of the needs of rural districts, which you and I probably all feel are sometimes neglected. That there are assumptions made about what everybody in New York has, and they don't necessarily understand the needs of rural areas. So thank you for bringing that up, but I haven't heard from Rensselaer County. If we do, we're with them on that. What else?
This is kind of a quick question with a number of them, so I'll just kind of break it up. How far in advance must you sign up for Wednesday childcare? Do you sign up for the whole year or each Wednesday?
The question is, what are the rules around you signing up for Wednesday childcare? When you sign up, you will be assigned to a classroom. If at some point in time you no longer need it at all, please let us know. And we would like to get all the initial signups back by Wednesday of next week. If something changes in your circumstances, absolutely contact us and we'll get you included in that. We just need to know who to expect on most days. You're not signing a contract again, but we need to put together groupings that we know we can have socially distanced. And the more information that you can give us and the more timely your information is, the better we can plan. If your situation changes, you just let us know as soon as you possibly can, and we will do our best to accommodate you. So we won't cut you off because you didn't notify us by a certain time, but it may take us maybe one Wednesday to make sure that we've got your child in an appropriate grouping that we can support social distancing. I hope that answers the question. I just don't want you to think, oh, I didn't tell them in time, so now I can't access the childcare. Of course you can, and of course we'll try to get you into a group as quickly as we possibly can. And if your situation changes and you no longer need it, just let us know. And we'll work with parents on this. Really, we're all in this together, and we're really just trying to figure out how to make this all work as safely as possible. So thank you for asking that. That's a really considerate question. What else?
There's the second part of this, kind of two questions as well. Will the aides help the kids with the curriculum, or will it be child guided? Is the remote instruction then otherwise taught by the teachers?
Questions on remote instruction when the kids are in Wednesday childcare. Teaching assistants can assist students with instruction. That's their job. And that's what they will be doing with the students that are in their supervisory group. So they will be assisting kids with their instruction. They'll help the kids access whatever videos the teacher has put up and help them be able to complete the assignments, maybe show them how to rewind the video, maybe explain something, but they are teaching assistants, so they do assistant teaching, and that is going to be part of the time, part of the expectations for their work during the Wednesday childcare is helping kids access all the instruction that's on there. I hope that answers your question. It will not be, in other words, entirely child guided, which was part of the question, that they will have the assistance of the teaching assistant. Did I cover that, do you think? Okay, all right. If you have more questions on that, hit them again in the chat and we'll try to get them.
Sure, I got this one right. Will all teachers be posting assignments every Wednesday?
The question is, will all teachers be posting assignments every Wednesday? Teachers will be posting assignments every day. Matt, do you want to speak to the expectations that we've given to teachers on that as well?
Sure. So on Wednesdays, there are not, in my building, there are not scheduled meets with kids. It is a time for students to be able to check in with their teachers, for teachers to be able to provide feedback on Google Documents or the assignments that are posted in their classroom in real time. It may be an opportunity for a teacher to meet with small groups of kids in a Google Meet, not at a prescribed time, but for the purpose of remediation or to assist kids who are struggling through a particular component of the instruction that's being provided. So it's not going to be a scheduled meeting. It is a work day for kids and a chance to interact with teachers in relation to their assignments.
And at Walter B. Howard, at this point in time, the direction that has been given to teachers is that on a daily basis, and we're talking about all 5 days, they will post direct instruction in ELA, in reading, in mathematics, and on alternate days on either science or social studies. On the Wednesday, they may also do small meets, but there will be videos up on a daily basis. And again, the thinking is that we will have a lot of students who are enrolled in in-person instruction who may be out on any given day, and we have the students on remote instruction. And we do want to have instruction available 5 days a week to students. I hope that answers the question on the instruction. And you can also follow up if something occurs to you, by the way, later on the dedicated email for questions, and we'll be responding to those as well. Do we have another one, Jason?
A few more. Will high school kids eat in the cafeteria?
Will high school kids eat in the cafeteria? Yes, but we may spill over into the gymnasium. Most likely with the 7th and 8th graders, I think that's where the numbers are going to be our largest. And in order to support social distancing, tables may be set up in the gymnasium as well. We do not have PE classes that meet during the lunch block, so we have that space available. So yes, kids are going to be eating in the cafeteria.
And Leslie, while the weather is warm, we're going to have a meeting outside as well.
Oh, that's nice. We do have a lot of picnic tables and we got space. So we'll take advantage of that as well while the weather's nice. Thank you for adding that.
Students with allergies, are they going to be sent home each time they have symptoms? My son often gets a cough that lasts several days.
Good question was asked about kids with allergies. And they said, are they going to get sent home every time with symptoms? Once we have the information from your physician that states that this student has allergies, and then they will describe what the symptoms are, we should be okay to have a student in school. If your child takes medication, we really encourage you, and the health department encourages you to have your child take that medication prior to coming to school. Because if at some point the symptoms seem different to the school nurse, we're going to have to err on the side of caution and send a student home. We don't want to disrupt your day unnecessarily. We don't want to disrupt our students' instruction unnecessarily. But we do have to also go along with what the Department of Health is requesting. But if your doctor can clearly describe exactly what the symptoms are that are consistent with your child's difficulties with allergies, we may be able to keep your child in school with the allergies. But again, if they have medications, please make sure they're getting those at home before they come in. I hope that answers the question on that. And allergies is the one that came up in every group meeting that we've had with the health department, because we don't want to be sending home kids unnecessarily. We also don't want to alarm other people and think that we've got someone who's contagious in the school. So there you are.
When do we tell WVH that we want our kids to go to school on site?
People have asked, when are you going to tell Walter B. Howard that you want kids to go to school in person? The survey is going to be going out this evening, and it will be available to you. You'll get an email of it. It will also be on our Facebook, and please complete it by next Wednesday. And we do appreciate all of you cooperating with us on this. It does help us plan and do a better job of meeting all the kids' needs at home or in person.
Again, Walter B. Howard families, that email will be from me.
Thank you, Matt. Ian?
And will afternoon quest our kids be picked up from their house?
The question is, will afternoon quest our kids, and I think we're talking about kids in the career and technical education program at the Rensselaer Education Center, will they be picked up from their home? So if it is a day that we are not in session, but your child has CTE in the PM, yes, we're going to pick your child up from home and bring them directly there. Similarly, if your child is in a morning program, we'll bring them there, and then we'll bring them directly home from the CTE program if it's not a day for them to be in session in school. We're not going to bring them in when they don't have a class, in other words, and we will be transporting either way directly from home. And you'll hear from the transportation department, their usual timing, which is about maybe a week from now, on what the runs are, so you'll know what time that is for the student in the career and tech ed program. That's what we have in the chats. I really appreciate all the support and all the good questions I've been getting from parents. People have brought up questions that have helped us to prepare better, because they may be things that we hadn't thought of. There are a whole lot of details and a whole lot of moving parts in pulling this together. So please don't hesitate to ask a question. Not only will you hopefully get an answer, but you will help us to better prepare by asking those questions. Oh, we got one more, hang on.
How will students get assignments? Will all teachers be communicating the same way?
The question is how students will get assignments and if teachers are all going to communicate the same way. All teachers are using Google Classroom. That's district-wide. So that will be our communication method. And it also helps us with the attendance portion because we can tell when a student has accessed materials. Matt, can you give more information on Google Classroom? Because I'm not a teacher and I don't use it. And you're a little closer to it than I am.
I'm not a teacher and I don't use it either. However, what'll happen is you'll get an invite from the teachers giving you permissions to view your child's classroom so that you can also keep track of their assignments. Just a word of caution, you can submit an assignment without actually doing the assignment. So there were a few of our students who were showing their parents, see, I submitted it, and they had submitted something, but the content wasn't there. So you do need to dig in a little deeper to make sure that the kids are not only accessing the assignments, but they're completing the assignments and then hitting submit. Communication with teachers is best done through email. And please know that I encourage everyone to have an eSchool data parent portal in addition to being involved in your child's Google Classroom, because that is the entity district-wide where grades are posted and information about discipline and so forth can be found. And in both buildings, if you just call and ask for the secretary, they will aid you in getting an account if you don't presently have one.
Thanks, Matt. I'm just going to check. Jason, do we have any more chat questions up?
Yay, thank you, Liz.
Well, again, thanks everybody for participating. Keep the questions coming to us. Send them through that school opening questions email that is posted, and be looking for the survey to come out. And thank you for all you're doing and to look out after your kids. We all have the same concerns. We all have families. We all want to be safe, and we all wish we were back to normal with school. I'm certainly missing having regular school. It's been a long time. I'm missing having the kids in the buildings. They're very strange without them. So wishing everybody well, and wear your masks and wash your hands, and we'll be talking soon. Thanks again. Have a good night.